so I wake up to Eckhart Tolle's voice. He's saying, you've got to do that thing, make a YouTube channel, write a book.
Grieving in a relationship, it's like the death of someone close to you, but you're constantly haunted by their ghost.
I did think romantic love was something you can have, you can keep.
Why did you pick me? I was like, do you see the size of that guy's penis?
This was the first alien I met.
If you want to trust, you need to welcome betrayal.
Oh.
Tell me what that means to you. Hey everyone, just a quickie before we get into the conversation. The podcast is always going to be free, so I'm never going to ask you to pay for anything. But if you could do me the kindness of subscribing and maybe leaving a review, that would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you and enjoy the episode. Tell me what's brought you to where you are today and the work that you do.
Life, I don't know. The work that I do, if we're referring to my YouTube channel, which is where you found me, what brought me to that? It was like a deep calling, right? So about 7 or 8 years ago, I was with my friend and he was taking the piss out of vloggers. And he said something to me. He was like, oh, you wouldn't. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was taking the piss as if I would be the worst vlogger ever. And in that moment, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I hadn't even thought about it until then. And then it was really hard for me to come online. This was 7 years ago, right? But I had no idea what to offer. I had no idea what to say. And so I sort of ignored it, even though it was like this background thing. And right, you might not believe this. A lot of people don't believe this story, but it happened to me. So I was in bed one night sleeping, and I wake up to my laptop playing a video. Now, my laptop was closed on my desk. Starts playing an Eckhart Tolle video, like bang in the middle. And so I wake up to Eckhart Tolle's voice, right? And he's saying, you've got to do that thing you know you want to do. Make a YouTube channel, write a book. And I'm lying there like, okay, like how much louder can it get? And even then, I didn't know what to do. I'd make videos and then I'd delete them. And I'd make a video, upload it, and then I'd take it down. And this still went on for about 3 years until, I don't know what it was, something happened about 1.5 years ago. And I just made the first video and I put it up there and I left it there. And then it just went on from there, really. I got such a benefit from having a space where I could be who I am, be that in any mood, because I'm a very emotional person. So I could just show up and send it out there. And it was so rewarding doing that for myself. I just kept on. Like, it's just a very, very fun thing to do. And it's still going on, and I still have no idea what I'm bloody doing. It's mad.
That's cool. So this was about 18 months ago, do you say? Yeah,
it was October 2023.
Because you got over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is YouTube subscribers are hard to come by, I would say. What was there a moment? Was there a particular video? Was it like, what was responsible for that growth?
Do you know what? I have no idea. There was no particular video. I haven't had like an influx of subscribers at any moment. I've been watching them come in one by one, literally. It's very, very slow and steady growth on my channel. And I'm actually very grateful for that. I think I'd feel very overwhelmed if I put a video up and imagine you got like thousands in one video. I don't think that's what it's about for me. It's like the slow and steady growth is very, very manageable for me. I feel safe because it's always like kind of the same. You know, there's just a few more people come in, they trickle in, and of course people trickle out, and it just feels very manageable and safe for me. So yeah, it's just happening very slow and steady.
That's cool. I think there's definitely like a benefit in that slow growth, like you say. And as well, because if you blow up for one particular video where you were talking about, I don't know, heartbreak or something, then what happens is then those people are expecting you as like the heartbreak person. And then when you delve into other areas, they probably want a line. And then you end up with I think they call it, what is it, like a subprime YouTube audience where like they came to you for one thing. So the benefit of having like you say, this trickle of them coming to you for all these different types of subjects that you've covered is, I think, a good thing. Like you say, yeah, it's interesting. What do you think? What do you think they're coming for?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think from the feedback that I've got, I think people like that it's a little bit different from what they're used to. And like as you mentioned, I've got no niche. I'm being myself, and my videos are just about sharing how I process life. And I think for some people, they like that. They like watching somebody try and figure out life and like make terrible mistakes. And, especially with this heartbreak, I've got a lot of people commenting, being like, "You're mad, don't go back. Stop it. What are you doing?" And then I go back and I'm still there. So, I really want to make it like a huge thing in my channel is like reminding myself I can be perfectly human, imperfectly human. And one day I'm really empowered and showing up in a certain way. And then another day I'm a bleeming mess. And I think some people really respond to that transparency.
Mm.
But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking off air a little bit. I just done a Q&A. And I find that sometimes some of my solo episodes in which I'm just like, well, it's just me, like it's not that interesting, perform better than when I have these like world-renowned experts and people with all this credibility. And I think there's a lesson in there when it comes to content creation, in that people are just craving realness. And I think if you're able to be vulnerable, it is quite a strange thing, though, isn't it? I sometimes think, and when you're kind of just listening, you're like a fly on the wall. Or when I listen to your videos, you're like a fly on the wall in like your thoughts, essentially. And yeah, it feels like it feels new but old at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It feels quite timeless in that kind of monologue style. I guess it's just like the modern day of a journal, isn't it?
Kinda, yeah. Yeah. How does it feel for you about being vulnerable online compared to being vulnerable offline?
Um, that's a good question. I think I'm pretty good at being vulnerable offline anyways. I've always been quite good at it. I think, and also like another train of thought is like, I sometimes feel like this, like almost like guilt that I'm like, oh, look how vulnerable I am. But I'm like, vulnerability isn't hard for me. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. I do
So
know what you
like,
mean.
I'm like, it doesn't seem that virtuous to be vulnerable if you're already like the sort of person that does it. And people are like, oh, like, and then I've even thought about, you know, how could I help people, and what, you know, if I wrote a book, what would it be about? And maybe it would be about like, oh, how to be vulnerable as a man. But I'm like, but I was already vulnerable, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I didn't have the problems that like the
Mm,
stereotypical male had.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but just answering your question, I think you don't get interrupted online or as a when you're doing solo recordings, do you?
Not at
So
all. Yeah,
yeah, so it allows you to just kind of keep it going
yeah.
rather than, and Christ, I do this to people and they'll say something, oh yeah, and I'll be like, oh yeah, do you think it's because of this? And I'm like putting my inflection on, like, oh yeah, it's probably a relationship with your dad, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, and then
I know what
sometimes
you
I'm
mean.
like, I have no fucking qualifications to be saying this stuff, but I can't help myself.
Yeah.
And I hear other people do it on other podcasts, and like, yeah, it's weird. Like, you want a back and forth with these conversations, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So it is a real art, both in person and online, to be able to have a dialogue and allow the person to be vulnerable and be themselves. But yeah,
Can I share? I want to share.
please.
So I'm doing this training at the minute. It's 2 years school that I'm in to be an awareness facilitator. So the
What's one of
premise
them?
is, yeah,
Oh, yes.
exactly. So it's like a form of therapy. And we learn, like over the 2 years, we learn all kinds of methods like psychology, psychotherapy, science, and then meditation, breath work, and shamanic traditions and rituals as well. So it kind of covers a lot of areas. And what we're trying to do, we're pooling all of this together. First of all, to bring like awareness to ourselves, to our patterns, our behaviors, our stories, then going beyond it and all of this. And we kind of have to go through this 2 year school to really, really get to know ourselves and clear it all out. So then when we hold sessions with people, our job is to bring that person to their own awareness. So, okay, we've got all of these tools, we've got these practices, and we've gone on the journey ourselves. And a huge thing that I'm learning, because I'm a bit like you, Jason, is where I like sort of use my intuition. I project a lot. I'm like, oh, it's probably this. I pull on all of my knowledge and assume a lot. And it's not helpful to help someone else come to their own awareness of themselves, to be told what someone else thinks is going on, because none of us like to be told how to think. So in this course, what I'm learning is, excuse me, you've got to really, like, rather than what I'm learning is rather than like assume what I know, is like show curiosity and ask a question. And you can sort of, if you want, a little bit like kind of guide the question to what you think might be going on, but you've got to like detach from an answer, right? So you ask them a question and see what they know, because at the end of the day, everyone knows themselves much better than we could ever know them. And I can't remember why I'm sharing that with you, but
Yeah, we were
it's
talking
something I'm
about
learning.
how, yeah, is it more difficult to, sorry, is it easier to share online? And we kind of went down this train of thought
Yeah, yeah, we've gone
in
on a
people
tangent.
interjecting. Um,
Mm,
yeah, so yeah, what you're saying is it's bringing back to what I mean. I presume what you would agree with by doing like a monologue recording as yourself, like your format is, you're constantly prompting yourself as you go along rather than someone else. So you're having
yeah.
to find those answers yourself.
Yeah, in a way, like I'm very, I mean, a lot because of my life experience, I'm like, I lean towards the like hyper independence and I'm working on it. But there's a lot of benefits that come with it as well. And I'm like autodidactic.
Mm-hmm.
And this was really encouraged in me from my mum because she's the same. So it's this thing like teach yourself, and like you can learn from people, but like take it in and what can you take from that? So that's kind of what I do on the channel. Is I do a lot of studying and listening to podcasts and listening to speakers, and then I take it all in, and I'm like, and where does that stand with me? What do I think about that? And that's kind of what I do on the channel, is like, hey, I heard this thing, and this is my living experience of trying to figure that out. So my answer to the question is, like, I find I have, being vulnerable online has really helped me be more vulnerable offline, because it was just about creating a space where I could be whatever, and then the feedback is delayed. So if I get positive feedback, if I get negative feedback, there's a space. It's not directly in my face, and I'm not freaking out. And then I can kind of process it slowly. And that has helped me offline for sure, because I feel more comfortable in myself now.
That's cool. How many videos do you reckon you've put out there in the last year and a half?
Oh, hundreds. I don't even know. I do it like most days, maybe like 3 or 4 times a week.
Would you say, like, if you could give me a rough idea of, like, in a week, how many times a week, or in 10 videos, right? How many of those do you get like a breakthrough? How many of those are you like in a bad mood? How many of those are, do you know what I mean? Like,
I do not know. It's got better. As in, when I first started, it was about being like, I'm angry today, or like, I'm really sad today. And now I'm coming at it a little bit, because my mental health and emotional stability is improving. So I show up a little bit more stable nowadays. I still make sure that I show up on the days I'm not feeling good, because that was my premise. That's the whole point. But I've noticed that it's gradually got better as I'm improving these areas. And like the channel has been huge in my development. So I wouldn't
like,
be able to tell you.
Yeah. So I like to put everything in spreadsheets. So it's interesting that though, is like there is stability in the instability of showing up unstable, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I've done this before when I feel unstable, therefore I don't want to show up and create content. So I don't do it. So I feel more unstable. Whereas when I show up, or actually, I can show up feeling unstable, but if I try and hide it, if I try and mask it, that will make me feel more unstable. If I feel unstable and just say, I'm feeling unstable, all of a sudden it kind of goes away.
It dissolves, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As soon as we name an emotion, it suddenly has a lot less power over us. We've like disidentified, well, maybe not disidentified, but created a little bit of space of like, we're now witnessing the emotion we're in. This is how it feels for me. So naming it for me definitely dissolves it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it anyway. And it makes me feel safe. I don't know about you, but I feel safe if I know whoever's watching knows how I am for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's this thing of like not pretending. I really don't want to pretend like I'm good or I've got it all figured out, because that brought me so much misery in the past.
Yeah. What about how do you feel about appearance?
What do you mean?
I was a bit cruel there. I thought I'd just give you that crumb and see if you went with it. So when, like, for instance, today I maybe could have like shaved under here, or I sometimes like get a little bit caught with the appearance thing, and I'm like, I just wondered if you ever had any experience or like neuroticism about how you're actually looking, like, do I need to put makeup on or anything like that, and how does that change? Does that change the content that you produce at all?
So when I first started my channel, I didn't really worry too much about appearance. Never wore makeup. As it's gone on, I wear makeup in my videos now because I think it looks better. Um, I just think it looks better. I prefer it. I think it's more appealing to look at. And I know myself, like I'm very drawn to watching beauty. I think there's something in humans, we love beauty. You know, it's like when you see these top TikTokers, some of them don't do anything. They just lip sync to a video, but they're so beautiful. They got millions of followers, you know, we love beauty. So for me, I like beauty too. So if I can add a bit of makeup and make myself look a bit more beautiful like that, I enjoy that. And I think other people will enjoy it, but I'm not hung up on it. I don't think.
Well, it's like, yeah, I suppose we're attracted to symmetry, aren't we? Beauty and symmetry is synonymous, and yeah, so much of like when you're recording and stuff, like if I had just maybe if sometimes like I think about having plants here, but then it's like, oh, there's this, you kind of don't want it to pull away from the viewer. So I guess rather than looking at it as a value judgment, like, oh, I need to be wearing makeup because I'm pretty, because it makes me look pretty or whatever, it's more actually about the user having a better experience and not getting distracted by something that maybe seem off center or whatever. So maybe that's like the idea. But I've never worn makeup, by the way. Although I did on a show I was on once, but that's another.
Did you like it? Did you like how you looked?
No, I look like a clown. Yeah, yeah. I look very. I think at the time I didn't think I looked too bad, and then I look back on the recording now, and I was like really orange. Do you know which show I was on?
No.
I was on Naked Attraction.
What were you? Were you one of the naked people, or did you pick?
I was in a pod. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how did that go?
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah, it was wild. I won the date, so I went on the date as well.
Congrats.
Yeah, so that was fun.
How did it feel being on a date with someone that picked you based on your naked body?
Well, I suppose there is a little bit of a confidence builder there, because do you mind if we get explicit?
Go for it.
I always thought I had a small penis. I think most guys maybe think they do. I don't know whether it's like the vantage point when you're looking down, but like it just always looks small.
And there's a bit of distance.
Yeah, and then that was kind of like a little bit of validation, because the guy that I won it against, like I was like, boys packing. So they didn't actually show it on the date as well, but she did as well mention that, because I was like, why did you pick me? I was like, do you see the size of that guy's penis? And
do you know how much it's not about that?
I do, because I've not had any complaints during my career as a sexual partner, so I've always been confident anyways. But I always thought maybe I was just making up for something. You know what I mean? Like what I lacked in diligence, I made up for. Sorry, what I lacked in length, I made up for in diligence.
Which is exactly the point, right? So some of the best sex I've had was a guy with a micro penis. Imagine.
Micro, just the way you said it.
I'm like tiny. It was a micro penis, but my God, did he know what to do? And that's, I think, like in compensation for that. So, like since that man, like it's how you use it, definitely. And I think if you're making up in other ways, women are gonna like that. For sure.
Yeah, and I think maybe maybe because then I found out, oh no, it's actually not small. I'm like, wow, so I got all the tools.
Try and stop me.
Yeah. How did we get onto Naked Attraction? Christ. I've been trying to get away from that. Although I keep bringing it up. When was it? It aired I think it'd be 2 years ago in April was when it aired, and it was actually filmed be 3 years ago in August.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
What motivated you to go on the show?
I've spoken about this before, but
Okay.
I'll indulge slightly. So I basically I was going through a difficult period in my life, been through a breakup, business was failing. I was just going through a lot, and it just I just came across it randomly, and kind of weirdly similar actually to what you were saying about starting a YouTube channel. Like you said, maybe slightly different. You said, was it a friend that said you'd be the worst YouTuber, or you wouldn't be a good YouTuber, or the idea of it probably scared you, and like conjured up something like that you thought was maybe not a good idea, but you did it anyways. It was kind of the same.
Right.
Forgive me if I'm overly summarizing your experience, but yeah, it was like I saw that, I was like, oh, I would never do that. I hate the idea of that. I don't like that show. And then I went,
Sign me up.
maybe it's the thing I should do. And then it just went from there. And yeah, I'm still debating on whether it was a wise choice. Like, you can't have regrets. Do you know what I mean? That you just go through life, and who know, you know, I'm sure that's benefited me in lots of ways. But then I also think sometimes I'm like, could it be, could it cause an issue with like someone wanting to get in a relationship with me, knowing that that's out there? Might do.
Might do.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question now.
Okay.
On that track, regarding public personas, being vulnerable online, do you ever fear that being vulnerable online is seen as a red flag for potential partners?
Totally. Not really concerned with that though, because it brings me so much enjoyment and fulfillment. If there was a potential partner and they did not like my channel, it's not going to work. So I'm not too concerned about it. It is potentially a red flag. I like massively overshare on the internet, you know? I even had, when I was on a dating app, I put on like, I said exactly that. Like, I overshare on the internet. If that scares you, run. Because it was a big part of me. So, yeah, I guess people have to be on board with it if we're going to try something out.
How connected do you feel to your audience? With your audience,
I feel very connected to them, like strangely connected. It's interesting because there's some people that have been there like a very long time and have commented consistently, and then you get people that sort of come and go. So some people like get very drawn in when they first find and they comment a lot, and I get emails a lot, and then they disappear, and I think they've just had enough of, they got what they needed from it. So it's interesting to see, people come and go, people have really stayed. I make sure I get back to everybody. I engage in discussion because it's really, I don't want to be like, hey, look at me, I know stuff, like, and I am here to offer you what you don't have, like, at all. It's like, hey, I'm a human being figuring out life. I got no flipping idea, and this is how I'm processing it. What do you think? Like, I really, really want to encourage people to share their thoughts because it expands my truth, Some comments really stay with me where I'm like, oof, it changes my perspective. So I feel pretty connected to them as they come and go. Yeah.
I sometimes wonder, like, if someone reaches out in the audience You should use the Instagram DMs. I do find it hard. Like, I wonder sometimes if you need to have more of a boundary, because I always feel like maybe that I always disappoint them, and then, like you said, almost like, and then they seem to. Some of them don't hang around. It's almost like the ones that reach out are more likely to disappear because they've reached out to you, and then I don't know whether, like, it's lovely to hear nice things, but after a while, you kind of like, there's this dissonance between like their knowledge of me and my knowledge of them. So it's very hard to have a normal conversation, and it ends up just mean like kind of not knowing what to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There was definitely a dissonance. There was definitely a difference. Like, and they come in with an expectation, I guess. Like they're reaching out for something. And I totally agree with you. It's still something I haven't learned yet, I think, about like where my boundaries are with that. It's still very, in my case, very small. So I'm not dealing with a lot. It's not overwhelming, case by case. But it's a really interesting point. And I think, like, I don't know how it's going to go, but if it grows and there is more of that, for sure, we'll have to reevaluate. Like, oh, maybe I don't respond to everyone. But I don't get this feeling like I'm going to disappoint them. Like I don't feel any responsibility for that. Maybe that's cold of me.
No, I don't think it is. No, I think maybe. No, I think it's awesome that. Yeah, like it's great that you respond to people, and I think what I find sometimes is, and maybe you alluded to this, there's almost like I don't know, like an agenda, or and I've had like a couple which were like got a little bit scary.
Really?
Like really kind of like just not how can I say it? Yeah, just like whoa, like lots and lots of messages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, I wonder if this person is mentally stable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then but it's weird because like the insecure side of me likes the validation. So it feels like you do a bit of a deal with the devil in like accepting or engaging with the nice comments.
Do you know what makes me think of? Like, how are you with, I don't know, like, do you receive negative feedback?
Not too much, but I have received some of it. Like, my platform is really small, so I feel like there's probably a tipping point where you get to a point of success where you start to get more negative stuff. It's like people like people on their way up, but once you reach probably a certain velocity, they'll want to tear you down,
take you down.
So
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm probably still seen as like really grassroots. I'm just still, well, I'm always going to be an ordinary person, but do you know what I mean? I'm still at that level when people can DM me and I'll reply, I suppose. So it's obviously when you start to get to a point where you grow and then you're not replying, it's always too big for his boots now, or she's too big for the.
Take him down.
Yeah, and that's probably, you can imagine where the negative comments would come if you stop replying to people. Then they're like, oh, how can I get their attention elsewhere? Maybe I'm hypothesizing that. What about you? Have you had an experience with negative?
Like,
I mean,
not really.
Yeah.
A little bit, and it's been really, really lovely and manageable. Like an odd comment here, and it's great because I'm actually like, I've been surprised in my ability to just not take it in. Like, well, it's okay if we disagree. There's ways you can disagree with someone, right? You can be like, you're wrong, or you can be like, oh, I wonder why you think that. My life experience has taught me this. Let's talk about it. So if somebody's coming in with a certain attitude, like whatever, but it's also made me like appreciate, like, to kind of somewhat take the same attitude with positive feedback. It's like, okay, I'm glad that resonated with you in that way, but I don't really take it on, because it's just, there's one and the same. It's just other people's opinions about you. And yeah, sure, it's nice if it's good, but it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day, really.
Yeah, I think it's a funny one, isn't it? Because in one of my last like solo episodes, I talked about a bit about this feedback stuff, and maybe I should have tapped a little bit more into what you just asked me then, because actually last year I had a big issue with some feedback that I received, but it was actually feedback from people close to me, being very constructive and unsolicited feedback, which really fucked me up psychologically and started affecting the channel. So in my last solo episode, I was basically I talked a bit about this, and I just said, keep your feedback to yourself. Like, I don't care. And I'm not saying that because I'm like a narcissist or anything, or like a tyrant, but I say it because maybe at some point I'll take a look at it all and I'll lay it out and I'll go, like, let's take some feedback. How can I, maybe make this better? But as far as my strategy is concerned, all I'm doing is putting the reps in for now. Like, I have a real job. Do you know what I mean? This is just, I'm just trying to keep up with posting, and I'm figuring out as I go along. And also, like, I know as well most of the time when something's not quite right, or I should have asked this or whatever. So I do review my own stuff anyways. But it's funny as you say that. I got lots of good feedback from that episode, and people loved this, and I'm sharing it on my Instagram story, like lots of all this good reviews. And I'm like, hold on a minute. In that I said to people in that episode, don't give me any feedback, but they're sending me good feedback, but of course I'm accepting it.
Yeah. I know it's a very fine line. It's such a fine line of, like, because everyone likes good feedback. Like, it's undeniable. Of course, it feels good to know people appreciate what we're doing. And then it's just a fine line, isn't it? Of like what's motivating us. Like, when you did that video, you weren't motivated to get good feedback. That was something that you were going through that you needed to share. Now that resonated and people give good feedback, but you weren't doing it for the feedback. And I think that's where it's a fine line of, like, we've got to show up, like, for what we want to share, what's real for us. And if it resonates or not, it's irrelevant. This is my approach to it anyway. Because the minute I start to think, like, and it's happened to me, like, I make many, many videos, and I think, oh, like, people like it when I'm in this mood, right? So then I'll make a video and be like, I'm going to show up like this. Doesn't do as well. And it's just another lesson for me. Like, look at me trying to impress, and for me, my experience is always the opposite. Like, I just got it. So I really feel like it's this fine line, but it's, like, why are we doing it? Who are we doing it for? And that's nuanced, right? Because we obviously want to be at service. We want to be providing something that can help people potentially, or be entertaining or whatever. But not doing it for that. It's just very, like, subtle.
Yeah. No, it is really subtle. I suppose from my perspective, and my podcast would be, like, if someone gave me someone gave me loads of good feedback around program episodes to do with sex, then I can like start to go, oh, I'll do more episodes on that, which obviously is then like this audience capture thing. And then you're not doing things. I suppose the good thing about receiving it from when you're doing like monologues, when you're doing, you are getting feedback for being you. Good. Do you know what I mean? So, but again, I suppose you can take that to a certain level when you start going, oh, but what was it about that episode? You know, was it in this sort of mood? So I'd never really considered that, but I think probably, yeah, what it comes down to is what we said at the start: is people just want realness, don't they?
Absolutely. Like they really do. It's relatable, you know, it's so much more relatable. And it kind of ties in as well, what you're saying of like people really supportive when you're on the way up, because it's relatable to people. I think that's what people like about my channel is I'm not showing up super professional. I've got it figured out. This is my niche. Let me educate you. Nah, I'm being me. And so this is the only way. This is why it brings me so much enjoyment, because I'm not trying to be anything except myself. And like, if that's received, great. If it's not, great, because it's still for me. But so yeah, I feel quite lucky in that it's like my niche is me in a way. For better or for worse, huh? Like, let's see where it takes me.
I love that. If you want to trust, you need to welcome betrayal.
Oh,
Tell me what that means to you. I heard that on your recent video.
yeah. So I was betrayed. That's like one of my core wounds is betrayal. And it has made it incredibly hard for me to trust other people. And on this journey, I've had to like really, really come to trust myself, because it was really a belief I can't trust people. And so, okay, so how can I trust myself at least? I know, well, I like to say that I wouldn't betray myself, but I definitely do. So what it came to, because what happened to me when I was younger, I felt so betrayed. I remember deciding not to trust people again. I was like, I don't want to feel this pain. Like, it's easier for me not to trust. And since I became aware that that is a belief that clouds my perception my whole day. And so the symptom of that belief is I isolate myself. And as I'm like sort of examining my life and what I want for it, I don't want to isolate myself to the extent that I have. I want to be able to trust people. And in this course that I'm doing, there was a lesson on non-duality. You watch this little video, and I've like I really studied, I don't know if that's the right word, but I really got into non-duality about 10 years ago. And it really, really excited me on an intellectual level. But practicality, like day-to-day living, it didn't seem relevant to me. A friend is like always considers himself non-dual, and he never really forms like solid opinions about things. He's very, very like loose, and I challenge that a lot because I have opinions. I'm very open. My opinions change a lot, but when I have one, I stand by it until it changes. So I really defend duality. I have a lot of my life of like, well, planet Earth, there's hot, cold, up, down. We have these dualities. So I always defended it. But there was something about watching this video on non-duality. There was an animation where they put like the two polar opposites, like hot, cold, and it just sort of brought them in to one. And it was saying like, although we experience duality, the bigger or the deeper truth is that one comes with the other on planet Earth. We know it's hot because we know what cold is, you know? We know when we're happy because we know when we're not happy. And I applied this understanding to my life, which was like going through heartbreak, like, I don't know, feeling betrayal. And because of betrayal, I decided not to trust, just so I wouldn't. So for me, it was, in this video that you're referring to was like, okay, if I'm going to trust, maybe I need to accept, because you could never trust someone 100%, someone else. You can't. They have free will. At any moment, something could happen that makes them break your trust. It's just a possibility. It doesn't mean like it's gonna happen, but there's that possibility there. And I now feel safer in trusting with that awareness. There is the possibility of betrayal here. And, someone actually emailed me, because in the video, I'm like, trust comes with betrayal. And I'm sort of saying it in a way like that you get one and the other. And they just emailed me saying, of course you can trust without betrayal. And it was such a beautiful message to receive. I'm like, of course you can, but I feel, because of my past and experience, safer thinking, okay, I'm going to trust. And there's always this slight possibility of betrayal. Like, and for me, it feels a bit safer with that. Like, okay, this is a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah, it's like there's a few things I'm thinking is like, feels like similar to like this oneness approach. Like, could we say that non-duality is like another term for oneness because it is part of a whole? It's like you say, if hot's here and cold's here, then we take a wider view, then you have to have those two elements. Whereas if you're way too up close with it, then you're not going to be able to spot that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that makes me think about attachment, which is obviously related to like Buddhist teachings. So it's like if you're too attached to one outcome, be it trust. Sorry, be it trust, then you're going to. How can I frame this? Yeah, then there's like there's like a block that's somehow not working. I'm not really
I get
forming
you,
that idea
Jason.
correct.
No, I get you. It's almost like if I choose to trust with an attachment to the outcome that this person is trustworthy, if I'm then betrayed, but I've been attached to the outcome, it's gonna hurt more.
Yes.
It's gonna hurt more. And
Yeah.
this is their teaching of like non-attachment, to suffer less, to be a bit more easy breezy with it. And my mum's like Zen Buddhist, and ultimately the practice of non-attachment is to prepare oneself for death. Like, that's the whole point. At the moment of death, can you unattach from your life? Can you unattach from the body? Can you pass through wherever we go without holding on? And I thought that was really beautiful. It made a lot of sense to me like that. But it's practice. Haven't figured it out. That's incredibly attached.
Yeah, that's why I've spoken to some people about polyamory on the podcast. And the idea of being in a polyamorous relationship terrifies me. But I do wonder sometimes if we're talking about this, like accepting like the other side of whatever the thing is, you're like in a polyamorous relationship, you have to front load that like disappointment or that feeling that you might get from well, it wouldn't necessarily be what's the fucking opposite of betrayal if you were doing it in polyamory, because that's the whole idea, right? And it's almost like, because in a polyamorous relationship you have to expect that, it's like you shine a light on that darkness before it's even happened, which will allow you then to show up more authentically in the rest of the relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. It's a fascinating topic for me, non-monogamy, especially since I've got experience of betrayal in relationships. So it's quite a terrifying thought for me, because I think for me, what I need is like, certainly if I'm starting a connection, it needs to be monogamous, because I need that personally for trust. And if you do not have insecurities in that area in your life, fantastic for you. But interestingly, I was kind of in open relationships, or this was like quite some years ago now, where like non-monogamy and all these terms weren't like widely spoken. So I just understood it as an open relationship. But I was coming at it from a very insecure place. So I'd been cheated on in the past. And so to avoid the pain of being cheated on again, I just ensured that all of my relationships were open. So if they did cheat on me, I had given permission for it, and it was like within my control. And it wasn't a healthy approach at all. Like, I realized that like this isn't actually what I want. So then I've kind of come to this decision, like I would like monogamy. And then, okay, if the relationship's really successful and it goes on for years, of course I would have the curiosity to spend time with other people. And so if I would want that, I could only grant that for my partner, but it would be based on a very solid foundation of trust and commitment. So with clear communication. And so if we were to explore that, for me, it would be later down the line. I think it's incredible. It's really like being very, very free with love. Like, and not thinking that it's something that you own or can have or can keep, as I understand it, it's about freedom, and that individual being is free to express as they want, which I think it's amazing if people can get to that point. But I also don't think it's like somewhere we need to reach. I think, some people are very, very on the other side, that it's all about monogamy and commitment. So I think, now in the day and age, everyone gets to choose what works.
Yeah. What have you learned about heartbreak?
Pretty much this, that I had a misunderstanding of love. So in this like non-dual, when I saw this video about non-duality, I was then applying it to my life. So I thought, like, heartbreak, which is what I'm experiencing right now, what is the opposite of heartbreak? And I thought it was love, like romantic love, my understanding of it anyway. And it's like, okay, so, but I had to like examine it a little bit more. Okay, so I'm heartbroken, but what has broken my heart? Like, it's what more specifically, and it's loss for me. Like, I'd lost something that I wanted. So I thought, okay, so the opposite of love is loss. And my sister said to me, yeah, if you think love is something you have. And I was like, oh, God. I did think romantic love was something you could have and you can keep. And
that's so good. I'm literally, because I'm like, yeah. When you're like the grief thing, I'm like, that's it. And then you said that, fucking hell, yeah. If you think it's something you can have,
and that you can lose it, right? So my understanding of love, like in a romantic, and this is, I think, where people like with polyamory are coming from, that love isn't something you have. It's what we share. I don't know.
something you experience, maybe.
So I'm re-examining now even what I think love in a romantic context is. And I have no idea.
Well, maybe that's part of the answer. Maybe we'll never know.
Yeah, that's
maybe
nice.
That's all
I
right.
like that. I love that. I love when it comes to that. The great mystery, surrender. Why do we even need to know? I like to know because it gives me a false sense of security. But
yeah, because we both publish content of us being neurotic out loud.
yeah.
There wouldn't be a job for us if we couldn't analyze all this stuff. a job. Yeah.
A pastime.
Yeah. Do you think, so with that in mind, do you think that grief is only permittable solely for the death of loved ones?
No, 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 no. No, no. I think we grieve, well, at least in my experience, I have to grieve a lot. Anything that I lose, I have to grieve. Like, at my current understanding of who I am is like I still have a little bit of this like love. I want to hold it and keep it. Like, and I'm working through that and like learning to let go a bit. But I grieve a lot. I have to grieve places when I leave anything I lose. Anything I lose, there is a process of grief, and obviously it can be extreme depending on how attached we were. But no, I think grief is so important for me to understand when I'm in it and like really know how to take myself through that process, because it's like a can of worms, grief. I never know what I'm gonna get.
I went through a breakup like coming up 4 years ago, and I used to have a stepdaughter, and I always felt like two things. One, that because I lost a relationship, the romantic side and then the daughter side, it was like two bouts of loss. And I remember I thought that I was over the relationship, like, I don't know, like 12 to 18 months later. And then I realized all I'd done is I'd gotten over one of these people. And then I had to process the other one. It's not like, and it was like a real clusterfuck, because I'm like, fucking hell, this was like nearly, a year and a half ago now. And then I started all again on the other person in this relationship. And also I would say losing a loved one, grieving in a relationship is like, it's like the death of someone close to you, but you're constantly haunted by their ghost. Because there's the potential that you might bump into them in Tesco. There's always that threat. And that's why it's really confusing. And I feel like, our brains are just so confused by it. Our animalistic brains are just like, that person was here. They're not here now. I can't see them, touch them, smell them, whatever. Why? And like there's like a disconnect with this like primitive system where it's just going, well, where's she gone? Like, are they dead? And I feel like the way that that I can tell that that's kind of what's happening is if I've not processed grief, they appear in my dreams. That's always like the litmus test. And I had it with lots of different people for years. Even like ex-partners' parents always coming in my dreams.
Wow.
And I realized it was like these open loops of people who one day you left them and never said goodbye and you never saw them again. And I think we're just confused by that because we've not had this is the end, this is definitive. But I do believe that you can close that chapter yourself. You just have to do the work.
You got to do the grieving, like consciously. And I think this is why I like grief as a practice. Like because sometimes if something ends and we never get to even see them to say goodbye, and then give us that little bit of closure. And yeah, I think then there is the practice of grief of like, actually, I really miss that person. If they're showing up in my dreams as unprocessed, and maybe I could revisit that and find some way to bring closure to it. Yeah, we're so sweet humans. I think we're so sweet. Our love and our attachment, and yeah, we just care so much.
What's your relationship like with inadequacy?
All right. So maybe you saw the video. I've rediscovered a new core wound of mine. Well, rediscovered, no. We were given a list of, on this course I'm doing, we were given a list of core wounds. And we had to choose which one kind of spoke to us the most. And for me, it was, I am inadequate. And the compensating personality is, so obviously at some point that came in as a belief. I was given the impression that I am inadequate. And because that feels unsafe for me, because I was obviously needed to prove my adequacy and somehow to primal caregivers or teachers, whoever it was, to receive their attention, their love. So being inadequate, I obviously had some kind of experience where I didn't receive the love or connection that I needed. So my compensating personality is I must prove I am adequate. And by knowing things and understanding things, I am healed and I belong. I will receive love. I'll be accepted. And this motivates my entire life, right? Like the amount that I study about people and myself and psychology, and like I'm so committed to learning like as much as I can about myself is driven by this wound. Like I want to prove that I'm adequate. So there's benefits to these things that happen to us in our compensating personalities. But what I like about being aware of it is because of course it sabotages my connections as well, right? So there's certain times when if I've hurt somebody or if somehow me not knowing something has caused pain in another, it's difficult for me to take accountability because I'm battling with like an identity that needs to prove it's adequate. So if that's challenged by somebody I love, like, hey, you fucked up. And then I've got this part that's like, God forbid anyone knows I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to handle the situation. It's really caused rifts in my relationships because I haven't been able to be like, I fucked up. Yeah, I'm inadequate. Because for this part, it's like, I won't be loved, I won't be accepted. So it's great to have more awareness of this because I need to know that I can be inadequate and I can be safe. And it, you know, like I'm very vulnerable on my channel and there's a lot that I don't care about being adequate about. I like to show up as a human, make mistakes, all of this. But there are certain things where I think like, no, I'm adequate there. Like, oh no, I know. And when that's challenged, it really sabotages my response. I'm not able to connect with them authentically and hear them because I'm too busy defending myself and my false sense of self. So all I can do with it is catch if I'm in a position again where I'm feeling this part of me is being threatened and I can see that I'm finding it hard to admit that I was wrong. And just really owning that because a lot, you know, like a lot of the times it's like, I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, but, and I'm trying to justify my action. And actually what people need is, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry I hurt you. And that comes with me having to put down my defense of showing up and proving adequacy, being like, I did not know. And I'm so sorry. So yeah, that's my practice now is catch it. Catch when I'm like defending something, catch when I'm trying to protect myself and really just be like, oh fuck, I really fucked up. This is the practice. Let's see how I do. It's one thing to talk, huh?
Yeah. How do you determine when you are adequate
It's all an inside job. It's literally when I feel I'm in control of a situation, I would say, like from an intellectual standpoint, even. Interesting question that just came out now. Do you have this, Jason? I'm feeling like this.
Do I have what? Sorry.
Do you have this wound of inadequacy? Or...
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's weird. Like when you said it, I was like, no, and and then I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course you do.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not, huh?
No, I do. No, I do. I think it's weird. It's but yeah, it can like live in the shadows a little bit. You don't realize it's there. Like what's driving you? Are you driven? Are you dragged? I did a reel about that the other day, and like I think probably what's propelling me to like trying to earn money, trying to build a following online, trying to do all these things in my athletic endeavors is like, if you don't do these things, you won't ever be good enough to be loved by someone. And yeah, so I guess, yeah, so I guess I do have that, but yeah, it's funny because someone commented on this post I put, and they said, you know, you are perfect as you are. Okay, which is really nice. And I stopped myself from replying because you know, but I was going to say, you're only saying that because of the person I am and because I am doing those things. Right? Like, this person probably only knows me because of all the things I just listed a minute ago. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Like, do you mean like they don't know all of you?
I mean, like, yeah, it's all very well saying that, but you probably wouldn't even know who I was if I didn't do all these high rocks competitions or these posts on Instagram or whatever. Does that make sense? So I'm like, I that's kind of you to say so. However, you wouldn't know who I am if I wasn't doing these things. To say that to me in the first place.
Yeah, I got you. And this is why like validation externally doesn't really mean anything unless you feel it inside. Like,
yes.
You know, if someone can say, "Hey, you're perfect as you are," if you don't feel that, it doesn't mean anything. What are you talking about? And why we got to come to our own. And I think, you know, we can be motivated to say, okay, I'm adequate. I want to strive towards becoming more adequate in this area, and I want to strive to be adequate in all of these areas. I feel inadequate is a good motivation for life.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what else are we gonna do? You know?
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I think people like to bring it. A lot of people bring it back to Buddhism and like, you know, and the non-attachment and just being like happy and stuff. But I'm like, yeah, like how many? I don't know. This sounds a bit stupid, but like, that's fine if you want to like sit and meditate all day and sit in a cave and not get married and not have children or whatever. But like, yeah, like we're as you know, we're these communal animals that look to people who, as you said before, are providing something for the group. Are they useful? What are they providing for me? Like, we're always doing it. We're always kind of like looking at a person who's maybe slightly up the rung than us, and we're always like aligning ourselves in status, aren't we? And I guess that's the game that we're playing is kind of just rising up the social hierarchy. We're always wanting to be just, like you say, slowly ticking over, growing a little bit more. And yeah, I forgot what we were talking about there.
Yeah, it's very, very true, because I think what comes with my belief of I am inadequate is, and then therefore need to prove my adequacy. Like, I very much have hierarchies in my mind. I do. And it doesn't serve me, but it's the way my mind has learned to operate. So to change that is a practice. I've got to create new neural pathways that aren't continuously comparing all of the time. And I it's something I want to do, because it doesn't serve me with connection to to use hierarchy. So I've been practicing it for a couple of years and just trying to throw it out the window, but it exists in me. And I just think with anything that we do, I really like to be aware of where it's coming from, because then I can decide, okay, like, is it serving me? Does it serving me to prove adequacy in some aspects of my life? Yeah, it does. Now, if I'm striving for perfection and then I beat myself up because I'm never perfect, okay, it's not serving me anymore. So I like to use these things and kind of like use them to help me with my life, like navigating it and creating something for myself, but not because I need it to feel safe, or like that's always my question. Like, why am I doing this? Like, what is it? What is the purpose? And for me, if that's very, and it could seem really selfish, but if that is very like self-focused, if I'm doing something for me, that then I feel less like I'm less looking out and like comparing and like, okay, I don't know. I'm going to stop there because I don't know where else to go with that.
Like we said before, like maybe there isn't an answer. Maybe there
Yeah,
is.
bring it back to the mystery. Yeah.
Yeah. If in doubt, just sit in that mystery. How do we know when we are playing a character?
Oh, fantastic question. Self-reflect. It's one of the questions that we bring to a session is like, what masks do you wear? And then you can give people some examples of masks, like, are you a jester? That's one of mine. Like, I'd show up and I'm like, way, all lighthearted. Are you professional? The thing about masks is I think they're very helpful, at least where we're at with society. Like, maybe potentially in the future when we've like cleared all of this crap, that we won't need them as much, but they're very, very useful. Like, I like to go to work and show up professional. I like to, I mean, the YouTube thing was kind of creating a space where I didn't have to wear a mask, or even if I did wear a mask, I could call it out. So it's self-reflection, like thinking about the different masks that we can wear and when we wear them, and just reflect on it. Was I showing up? How did I show up there? Like, so I don't even think there's anything wrong with masks. And I think in the past, I really thought there was. I was like, no, I have to be fully authentic and like never. So when I was in social settings and I was feeling anxious, for example, I would let that anxiety kind of like envelop me, because I needed to be authentic. So I was like, well, in this moment of time, I'm authentically anxious. And actually, like, it served me to be like, okay, I'm feeling anxious, but I can still show up in a certain capacity. The masks help. So I've even like I use them a little bit in certain settings. I have no idea if I've answered your question there, Jason, but
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, self-reflection. I think maybe what we're as well, what you could be saying as well is, or at least how I would interpret it, is alone time. And maybe alone time doing some kind of practice, whether it be journaling, whether it be making videos on YouTube, voice noting yourself, whatever it is. Because I feel like I've done a lot of work on masks the last few years, and I think it's like the difficult one is if you're wearing a mask all the time. That's the one that's like can be really negative, because if you're wearing the mask all the time, then it suggests that you're not happy with the real person you are. Whereas if you wearing a mask, strategically or because it's an appropriate setting, then that's slightly different. Although, I mean, obviously, like we work in different professions, so it's I suppose like for me, I run a marketing agency, and so I can be pretty unapologetically Jason anyways. Do you know what I mean? Like, but if I was teaching children, I can't be swearing all the time or stuff like that. So there are certain, types of professions where it's more accepting and whatnot. I thought the way I was thinking about it the other week was in the self-development space, there's a big thing around, outgrowing people. The people who are there at the beginning might not be the ones that are there, at the end or in the middle when you make it, inverted commas, or when you change or you level up, whatever. And agree with that to a certain extent, but I feel like there is another level to it. So I will explain. So let's say level 1 is just like the person you were at school with your friends, and you fit into that box of whatever like character traits you have. Then like a few years go by, maybe you go traveling, maybe you do something or whatever, and then you find out, okay, maybe I'm a bit more like this. Maybe actually this is the real person I am. You do a little bit of work on yourself, and then you go back to that group from level 1, and then you find yourself merging back into that old version. Maybe you were submissive, maybe you were dominant, but for some reason you slot into this like ecosystem of hierarchy essentially within a social setting. And then it's like, Jason is the type of person that is like this, or Jessie is the type of person that does this. So then you could go away from that and lead a load of self-development mooks and go, oh, well, that's because all those people are toxic. And, I need to level up and, go and find some new friends and that are all fucking business owners or whatever it might be. But I would argue, and I feel like I'm at like this I've reached this like next stage, which is I can go back to that. I realize I'm been giving a figurative example. Now it's just about me, but I can go back to I can go back to level 1, shall we say, the friend group, and be the version of myself or yourself, and not conform to the old ways, if that makes sense. What you'll find is usually we talk about dissonance a lot. There'll be a lot of dissonance in the group when that happens, because if you come back and then you go, oh fucking hell, like I'm not expecting this person to speak like that, I'm not expecting them to stand up for themselves like that. Who are you? Look at you, like, check you out. Oh, you've changed. And it's how you then weather that storm of that old group as to whether you just decide to cut it off I'll go, oh, it's okay, well, I'll go and meet my friends that I met at fucking yoga class. Or you actually sit with it and just be okay with like the people that you've known all your life or whatever. But I feel like I'm talking a lot of shit. But
No, you're not, Jason. It's beautiful.
yeah, I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? But be able to be like that new version of yourself, but be accepting that there maybe is a little bit of dissonance there in the group, but be like, hey, if you're wanting us to all to be friends, like this is the new reality, and then people have to adjust to that. I have no idea why we started talking about that.
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It was great.
I hope people can take something from that, though. Yeah, I think my point is like maybe you don't have to cut off these people all the time. Emergency press eject maybe it doesn't have to be like that. Maybe the more confident version of you is able to handle it and have both things. Yeah. End of my soapbox.
I really, really agree with you. I don't like this narrative of like cut people out, they're toxic, they're unconscious. I don't like it. It doesn't breed connection for me, or togetherness. Like it's our responsibility if we go back to the level one, and it's our responsibility to show up as we are with the new parts, and if that's different, of course there's going to be some flashback. Is that a word? People, it's hard for people if suddenly someone they know that's very familiar is showing up differently.
Sorry.
Discord. Okay, thank you. If they're
well, it was probably me as well because I was saying dissonance, but Discord is kind of. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, good. I like it's. I really like being specific with words. So, it will challenge people. And if you've got like a friend who is confident enough to be like, whoa, hold up, this wasn't who you were before, they're calling something out, they're observing something that is true. And I've learned, like, grant people the time to adjust. And because for a long time, I wasn't showing up authentically. I was slipping back, as you said, into the ways of how I knew I'd be accepted within that group. And I was too afraid to bring like new parts of myself up because what if they're not accepted? And then as I did, there was this discord or like, no, there's a word that I want, like flashback or something. It's not flashback. Thrashback? I don't know. It's not important. But and then it was my responsibility to be like, yeah, this is the new me. Like it or lump it. I'm willing to reconnect if you can accept this part of me. You're also free to change, like we're changing all the time. So I think it really is our responsibility. And I don't think maybe for some people it is the right thing to cut it off. Maybe their friend doesn't want to accept maybe there is no resonance there anymore if you're this new version. That happens. But I don't think it's like a written rule. Like cut out, move on, evolve. It's like, who do you think you are? Like we're all doing our best and we're all evolving and at different paces and at different times and in different areas. And yeah, I definitely think friendships can change. And if we allow them to, like if we allow that person to meet the new version of ourselves, I wasn't doing that before out of fear. And actually I found showing up, people like it. Most people. There's some people that don't, and that's okay.
Yeah, I like what you said. Where you said, you need to give people time to adjust. I think that's so true. Because it is gonna, surprise them if you've not seen people for a while, and then they're like, "Oh, fucking hell! Like this wasn't what I was expecting."
Yeah, exactly, and that can be a bit scary, can't it? Like,
yeah, because everyone's all of a sudden someone's perceived like level in the group might change, or that like and that's like a fear response. Like everyone likes to be able to predict kind of where they are
Yeah,
on a
totally.
social hierarchy, or not that I'm suggesting that anyone's higher or lower in this particular scenario. But yeah, I think it's very interesting.
Yeah. And hierarchy, I would use the word dynamic. It's like there's a group
Much
dynamic,
better.
right? And there's group roles. And
Yeah.
once they're established, especially from childhood, we get comfortable in that. So if somebody comes in and then challenges that, of course they'll be like, what's happening?
Yeah.
It's actually calling on everyone to readjust, you know? And it makes people face their own role that they're playing when somebody changes theirs. So not always easy.
No. What's New Age spirituality?
Hmm. Like, I don't know, that is thrown around a lot. I don't think I really understand what it means. Like my like very superficial understanding of it is like static dance. Uh like I don't know, like new practices in the name of spirituality. It's got such a bad reputation. And maybe there's validity to that. Like I feel like I've grown up with it. So, like my mum challenges it a lot, but because she was around before this existed, so she can
Mm.
see it from a different perspective. Whereas I feel like I very much like grew up into it. And it was incredibly beneficial for me, like a lot of new age spirituality practices. I needed them on my path if I understand what they are. Um, I just think so I don't think again, it's not something I would criticize because it's something that served me on my journey. I think where I went wrong with it sometimes, well, or maybe where I see that it can be not helpful is when we attach to a practice. And then we're like, this is it. And then we need everybody else to understand how important it is. And if people don't, there is a bit of this attitude of like, well, you just don't get it. And I don't like that because um God forbid I'm seen as inadequate, right? uh so I don't think I completely know what it is, although like a lot of people, like I don't know if it's sort of like this alien discourse, if that's considered new age spirituality, maybe.
Alien what?
um Alien discourse, like alien, like aliens, like a lot of people say they're from other planets. Have you heard about this?
Oh, no, no, no. I've not heard of that before.
No? Oh man, so I met someone when I was in India and I did a yoga course. Um, it was only one other woman on the course with me. We were very, very lucky. And she considered herself an alien. This was the first alien I met. It's a thing,
What a
Jason.
line.
So this is probably New Age spirituality. Yeah, yeah, what a line exactly, huh?
The first alien I met.
Someone who identifies as an alien, I suppose. Like, and then I got really into all of that. I really, really got into it. It was very exciting for me. I was like, oh, cool. There's other species out there, and I got really into it. And then I remember showing my mum, and she was like, oh God, Jess, like, what are you doing? And I somewhat identified with that for a bit, which was important for my journey. And then I read somewhere someone said, oh, I used to identify as an alien, but I realized it was about not feeling like I belong. And maybe some people need that narrative to feel like they've got a home somewhere, but it's not here because of all the pain and suffering. And it's about maybe um, like wanting to disidentify with being human because it's painful. It's a painful experience. Now I like to take the position of I don't know. I like genuinely don't know. I don't have any personal experience. Not strictly true because I've done plant medicine and I've gone places, but whether that's real or not, or just The inner workings of my mind, again, I don't know. So with these things, I just sort of take the position of, I don't know, but whatever works for you. That's kind of
It's all a
my...
projection, though, isn't it? Regardless of how you interpret it. That's my thoughts on, like, when you talk about plant medicine or experience, and yeah, I don't know.
No.
I think, yeah, I think, like, even though, like, if you can, like, the fact that we can actually see, like, things in front of us is a form of hallucination already. It's like a projection, isn't it, of like how your mind has interpreted the sensory conditions that are in front of your face. And therefore, like, so if you took plant medicine, then why is it any different? I don't know. We're going down, like, real stoner talk now. But yeah, no, I've do you think that this alien thing, are they being, like, metaphorical aliens, or are they actually, like, I'm from from another planet?
I'm from another planet.
Wow.
So a lot of people believe or know, some people claim it, that they're from other planets and they come to Earth at this time to raise the consciousness and bring in their gifts and abilities that they have from these other places, and they bring it down here to help and serve humanity. That's the narrative.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't yeah, I mean, I suppose if I thought about it hard enough, I suppose I would think some people would think that, but I've not come across a spiritual alien or an alien yet.
I've put it into your orbit now, so let's see.
Yeah, it's definitely on the radar now. I'll well, I'll start to wrap things up now. I've been going for a little while. I want to ask you, just before we finish up, what advice would you give to someone who's maybe considering starting a YouTube channel?
Oh, do it, do it, do it, do it. I actually get a lot of people, it's really, really nice, that say, I always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I found yours. You've been really inspiring. I get emails from people saying, I finally posted my blog after seeing your videos. So I am all for it. Like, I cannot stress enough how much enjoyment, satisfaction, and growth that it's given me. And I was starting not having a clue what to offer. Like, this is what took me so long to start, is like, I don't have a niche. I don't have an expertise in anything in particular. Like, I don't know. And I did it anyway. So my advice would be, like, do it. Like, find the courage within you and post what it is you want to do. You won't look back.
Yeah, that's cool. For some reason, I just thought about the very first YouTube channel that I started, which was it was me, and it goes back to this fear thing that we are talking about before. I always I used to be a musician. Well, I am a musician, but I used to be more so. And but a fear that I always had was that I couldn't write. I was only good at doing covers. I wasn't creative. So I decided to start a YouTube channel documenting this process. And it's literally me staring at a whiteboard. Okay, write a song. And I'll just press record. And I'm actually really proud of it. I was really embarrassed though, and I remember hearing at some point that people had been in this group chat and they were taking the piss out of me and, like, posting videos. Oh, look at Jason doing this, that classic kind of tall poppy syndrome kind of thing. And now I think back, and I think I took the videos down at the time, and then I think I maybe reinstated the channel a few years ago or whatever, because I was like, well, fuck them. Like, what the like? Do you know how much courage that took to just sit there like a dickhead with a guitar and like, oh, I'm going to write these songs, and like, it's like, I don't know. I think it's admirable and adorable and hilarious and just kind of so yeah, the reason I mentioned that is because you said you won't regret it, but I remember all of a sudden I was like, ooh, I regretted it for a little while, and then I pulled it down, but then I came back to it and went, no, that was awesome. Like, also what you don't realize is, and this is like journals in general, right? The thing you're feeling today feels boring, but in 1, 2, 5, 10 years from now, it will just seem fascinating to you. So like having that recording, that's why I love having like all these conversations, and I've got a catalogue of all these fascinating conversations I've had with different people all around the world, and I can go back to them at any point. What's weird is sometimes I'll listen to like ones and I'll go, "Is that me?" And I'm like, I'll be like, it was only like maybe a year ago, and I'm saying, "Oh yeah, I'm into this thing now, and I'm doing this," and I'm like, I don't even remember that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't remember having that habit or whatever. And I go, that's pretty good. It's a bit like we say about that internal wisdom that we kind of always have.
Oh, but it's fantastic you get that experience, because I can't watch a video I've made 2 days ago. I don't watch my videos back.
Don't like watching them.
Oh God, I absolutely not. Like every now and again, I get recommended one, and I feel like there was a message in it for me, so I watch it. But generally speaking, I record it, I watch it once, I upload it, and I never look at it again because I cringe so much. I look at like who I was 2 months ago. Sometimes I'm like, cool. And then other times I'm like, oh God, it's so, because I can even make a video and the next day, everything I said in that video, I've changed my mind about, and then I'm like, God, am I going to be like, and so I've just had to let go of ever like knowing what these videos are for other people. It's like, that was my truth in that moment. And even in expressing it has helped me widen or change my perspective. It is the act of saying, this is what I think, allows me to change somehow. That's my experience.
Yeah.
And so if I can't always watch it back, I'm like, oh my God, as if I said that, but whatever. Then someone might comment on a video I made 8 months ago and be like, this is exactly what I needed to hear right now. And I'm like, there we go. Cool. Like, I don't know if it's the best strategy, but it works.
No, but I think as long as you're being authentic, it doesn't matter. But like the point that you're not authentic, then you look back at like that trail of videos or whatever, and you go, well, what the fuck was real? But if you're constantly real, at least then it's like a blockchain of your neuroses.
Exactly.
Like, just it's always there. Yeah. What fucking hell, what were we talking about? Sorry, I've totally lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think, what was I saying? Like it's okay to change your mind. Serious people change their mind about things. It's only dogmatic people that don't change their mind about things. But yeah, as long as you're.
But yeah, we were talking about like setting up a YouTube channel, and like that you had that experience where then you did get negative feedback, and like that is the risk, and that is what holds most of us back. I suppose it's got to get to a point where like not doing it is worse than not doing it feels worse than doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe we all need to find that threshold for ourselves.
I know, and it's hard, isn't it? Because it's like, obviously it's not for everyone. This content creation thing isn't for everyone, but Like if it's niggling at the back of your mind, if it's there's this inner voice saying that you should do it, then just do it.
Absolutely. I agree. If anyone out there is listening and you've got that niggling, like, oh, I'd like to try it. I'd like to try it. It's for you. Because I got friends who know they don't want to do what I do on the internet. They are very, very clear about it. Like I've got friends who don't even use social media. You know, it's not their thing. But if you're someone who's like, oh, it's for you, for sure, for sure. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that feeling in you. Because some people just, they don't have it.
All right. Well, this has been so fun. It was weird actually. I was at a bit of a loss for like who to invite on the show. I go through periods of having lots of people in the calendar, and they've just and I was sort of feeling a bit like, where do I don't really know what direction to take this at the moment. I try and feed my curiosity. And I feel like I'm in a bit of a transition phase potentially of what kind of subjects that I explore. And just randomly, one of your videos just came up at that time. And I watched it and I was kind of like, I was like, that's weird. That's like weird that I was suggested this content, because it's not that I wouldn't consume your content, but it's not the kind of thing I normally consume. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Even though you're like, you look like my type of person, you are my type of person, right? And yet it was just delivered to me, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I watched a few, and I was like, I'm sure we could have a great conversation. And yeah, that intuition was right. So
yeah,
thank you for coming on.
Hey, dude, I'm so grateful. And I would just quickly share like what I shared with you in the email when you first got in touch with me. Because my friends were asking me like it's coming at me from different angles of like, what's your measurement of success? Like, when have you made it on YouTube? Is it how many followers? Like what is it for you? And I really don't know. It's such a difficult thing to define. I guess it's when I feel successful within it. I really don't know. I don't think it's a number of subscribers. And so I was clutching at straws, and I thought maybe it's when I'm asked to be on somebody's podcast. Just for being on my show. And like a few days later, Jason, I got your email. So maybe the universe like did its little thing there and synchronized us up. So I'm incredibly grateful, because technically speaking, I've made it now.
You've made it. You're welcome.
Thank
I've
you.
ordained that status.
You brought me the success I was looking for. Thank you.
There you go. You can retire now. And what's on the horizon? Have you got any plans for the show? What do you call it? A show? The show. Your show.
The channel.
What do you have any like plans? Are you just going to continue as you are? Have you got anything in store?
I'm gonna continue as I am. It's like unfolding as I go. And it's always been like that. It's just unfolding. I'm as curious as anyone else to see what ends up. I've got some ideas of doing like ASMR story versions. I might do this when I have members on YouTube. That might be something for the members, because I get a lot of feedback about my voice. People like the voice and that it's very calm. And maybe we don't have the right microphone today. So sorry, guys, if you're not getting the full potential. We had technical difficulties, but maybe leaning towards something like doing a little bit more with the voice, because that's what people seem to like, but who knows? Yeah, it's one day at a time.
You have got a very palatable voice. I will give you some extra validation there.
Thank you.
for the ride. All right, Jessie. Thank you so much. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your story online. And yeah, I think it's awesome. I think more people should do it. It's just cool to have your voice out there, and I'm sure everyone listening will agree, and your fans, your loyal fans. So I will include links to your channel in the show notes, and I suggest everyone check it out. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will speak to you soon, no doubt.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's so lovely to get to know you. And yeah, kudos for all the work that you're doing and your commitment to it and yourself.
I appreciate that.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Hey guys, it's me. Thank you so much for watching that episode, and congratulations for making it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. A few things before you get going. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you enjoyed this episode, the kindest thing you can do for me is to share it with a friend or family member. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to both my guests and myself. And if you made it this far, why don't you drop me a DM?